Are you one of those type like me that love the nooks and crannies of a fresh toasted English muffin with lots of butter? Or an English muffin sandwich with an egg and some Canadian bacon and cheese? But sometimes the store-bought ones aren't so good. But I'm going to teach you how to remedy that with another Homestead kitchen skills. Hey friends, this is Angela from Art of Creation Homestead again. And we're back with another Homestead kitchen skills. Today I'm teaching you how to make homemade English muffins. It's much easier than you think. Doesn't take long at all. So let's get started. In this bowl we have 2 cups of bread flour. You can also use all-purpose flour, but I think you get a little bit more nooks and crannies if you use bread flour. So I'm using 2 cups of bread flour, and there's also 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar in there. To that, we are going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Now I'm going to put it on this side of the bowl, and I'm going to work it in. There's a method to my madness with this. Salt will kill yeast. So you want to put your yeast on the other side of the bowl. And we are putting 2 3/4 teaspoons of yeast. Now I am using, the reason I am not proofing the yeast is because I am using instant yeast, which is, you guys know, if you've been watching me for a while, I use SAF. I will leave a link in the description below to the yeast I use. You want to mix that in just like you did with the salt. Mix that in with your flour. The flour coating the yeast and coating the salt will keep it from messing with it and killing the yeast. Now you want to mix it all together. If you are using instant yeast like I am, you do not have to proof it. You just throw it straight in with the dry ingredients because you know it's fine. But if you are using just regular active dry yeast, you will want to proof it in this. And this is a 1/2 cup of milk and a 1/2 cup of water, and it's heated to between 110 and 115. You guys know I keep my yeast in the freezer, so I err on the side of 115. And to that I have added 3 tablespoons of salted butter that I have melted. Now to this mixture, if you are using plain active dry yeast, you want to add your yeast at this point, and you want to let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes to let it proof. But because we are using instant yeast, I don't have to do that. And I'm just going to go ahead and add in 1 egg, 1 large egg that I have beaten. And you want to add it quickly because it can still kill your yeast if it's too cold. And it can still curdle if it's too warm. So you want to add it quickly. And see, now, and see, when you stick your finger in, if you would put your baby in it as bath water, that's the perfect temperature for your English muffins as well. So now we are going to add our liquid ingredients to our wet ingredients. And you are going to stir them together. And you can instantly, the minute you add the warm liquid, you can instantly smell that yeast. Oh, and it smells amazing. I love the smell of yeast. I think that's part of the reason I love to make my own bread, is because I love the smell of yeast. Okay, now, as you can see, it's very loose. And you're thinking, okay, where's that cup of just in case flour to make it tighten up? You're not going to do that this time. You don't want it to tighten up. You don't want it to clean the bowl. This is what you want. This loose, shaggy mess right here. That's what you want. That's actually what you want with English muffin dough. Now, we are going to cover this with plastic wrap. and put it in a warm place, either in your oven with the light on or a warm draft-free place, for 45 minutes to rise. That's all it's gonna take, it's just 45 minutes. Then we'll be back and I'll show you what we do next. It's been 45 minutes, and are you ready to see what this dough looks like? Look at this. Now you probably understand how you get all those nooks and crannies, because it is foamy and beautiful. Now, it's gonna be kind of like a stretchy, thick pancake batter, but that's how you want it. You do not want this to be like a bread dough. You're not gonna get the nooks and crannies if you do it that way. It's just gonna be like a bread muffin. It's not gonna be, you're not gonna have the nooks and crannies. Now I have my griddle preheated to like between like 300 degrees. You want it to be very low, because this step right here is what causes those nooks and crannies to form. This is a very important step. So you want to make sure you keep the heat on lower. 300 at most. If you don't have a griddle, you can do this in a skillet over medium to medium low heat, because you want this heat to stay low and even, because this is a very crucial step where you get your nooks and crannies. We also have our oven preheating to 350 degrees. And we have a cookie sheet, just a normal cookie sheet, lined with a piece of parchment paper, and we have some cornmeal scattered on it. I am using white cornmeal. You can use white or yellow. It doesn't matter. Once your griddle or your pan is preheated, you want to throw on about a tablespoon or so of butter. It's just regular old salted butter. And I'm doing it on a griddle so that I can do more at one time. But you can do it in, like I said, you can do it in a skillet. And you want to scoop up 1/3 of a cup. You're gonna watch it deflate a little and see it's kind of stretchy. And you wanna drop it out onto your griddle. Scrape it all out. Now you can use a ring mold to make these perfectly even and beautiful. You don't have to. Rustic is best. These are, as Jason always says, these are farmhouse style. Now you want to take your fingers and kind of spread it out a little bit into the best rough circle that you can possibly get. I'm going to go ahead and turn this down to about 275 or so, because it got hot really fast. And like I said, you want to keep it low. You want to keep it moderate. Moderate to low. Because this is how you're going to get your nooks and crannies. It's this step right here. Now, like I said, these are not going to be perfect. If you want them perfect, you can use ring molds. And I can get safely without overcrowding, because you don't want to overcrowd your pan. Without overcrowding, I can get about 4 on my griddle. But mine's a small griddle. And at this point, you want to start raising them up, peeking underneath. And when you get a nice brown underneath, you want to flip them. But here's the trick. You want them to cook so slow that they start to rise and expand inside. And that's what's going to make those beautiful nooks and crannies. And if they rise too fast, you're not going to get those beautiful nooks and crannies. So it's very important that they rise slowly. So now let's take a little look underneath. And this one is ready to flip. So you want to flip it over and see. Now don't mash it down. Don't mash it down, because that's where your nooks and crannies come in. Now we're going to take a little look. And This already smells absolutely amazing. Now, if you're dealing with a griddle, a non-stick griddle, it does get a little hairy to flip them. Now, like I said, if you want these perfect, go ahead and use a ring mold to make them the perfect size and the perfect roundness. I don't care about that. I care more about the flavor and the texture than I do that they're perfectly round. And these are smelling amazing. Now, when you take them off of the griddle, they're not going to be fully done. You don't want them to be fully done. This is just to bring in those nooks and crannies. And as you can see, they are rising. On this griddle, they are rising, and they're going to be nice and tall. And the slower you do this, the more nooks and crannies. The quicker you do this, the less nooks and crannies. So you want to do this as slow as possible. But when you've got a really good, nice brown color on the other side, then you are going to take them off and put them on your cookie sheet that you have over to the side. Oh, these smell so divine. Now we're going to check our first one. And see, you're starting to get a nice brown. You probably can't see it real well on camera right now, but you're starting to get a nice brown. You want it a little browner than that. This is just going to take 3 or 4 minutes. Now, you've got a beautiful brown there. Now we are going to transfer it over to our cookie sheet. And this should make about 7 to 8 beautiful English muffins. And you just want to lay them out on your cookie sheet. Make sure they're not touching. And now you want to wipe the excess butter off your griddle. Otherwise you're going to get kind of a weird off color and maybe a little bit of burning on your griddle or in your pan before you do the next batch. Now you want to add another little knob of butter. Not much. You don't have to do much. About a teaspoon or about a tablespoon or less. This is probably about a half tablespoon. Probably. Roughly. Now we are going to finish up our batter. Well, it's kind of a dough, kind of a batter. Doesn't matter. I made a rhyme. As you can see, we got 7 large English muffins. If you want yours smaller, you can make them smaller. I like mine big. So now, they are not done yet. As you can tell, they're still squishy. They're not done yet. So now, you want to throw them in your 350-degree oven. And you want to bake them. How you will know they're done. You can't go by the color because they're already brown. You will take a thermometer and you will poke in to the side. And when it registers 205 degrees, you know it's done inside. But you can also go by the touch. When you touch them, they shouldn't feel doughy anymore. They should feel firm to the touch. And they should be ready at that point. Now we're going to pop these in the oven. These beauties are out of the oven and I've let them cool a little bit. They baked for, because I did make these a little big, they did bake for about 15 to 18 minutes. If you made yours smaller, they will more likely take between 12 and 15 minutes. But because I did make these big, they did end up taking a little bit longer. So now, let's look and see if we've got those nooks and crannies. You never want to cut an English muffin with a knife. You always want to split them with a fork. And see, you can see they're nice and fluffy. You want to stick in your fork all the way around your muffin. That'll help you pull them apart. And we'll see if we've got the nooks and crannies. If you use a knife, you will mash your nooks and crannies together and you won't have any nooks and crannies. Now let's open this up. Look at that. Look at all those nooks and crannies. Oh my gosh, that looks amazing. Now, these are ready to be toasted up. Slather on some butter, put some eggs and cheese and Canadian bacon on it, whatever you want to do. These look amazing. Can't wait to taste one. You cannot tell me that that does not look amazing. I just toasted it up, slathered on a little butter. Listen at this crunch. Oh my gravy. These are the best English muffins you've ever tasted in your life. I can't wait for you to try these. These are absolutely melt in your mouth delicious. I thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you so much. We love you. God bless you and have an amazing day. And make these English muffins.